So I've discussed the Joe Rogan thing before. Um, when he first got COVID and he was downplaying it and he was saying that, wasn't downplaying, but he was saying like young people, not getting the vaccine and that, he basically kind of made out like it was weaker than it was. And then he got it. And he did that video where he's talking about how um, I gave it the monoclonal antibodies and the Z pack and with a vitamin IV drip and all this. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, this is privilege talking. Like this is, and I'm not knocking him. This is privilege. And I said then, I'm gonna say it now before I go any further. If Joe Rogan came out and said, I believe this, but worst come to worst, I've got the money to power out of this. Or I have the money to sit down somewhere in a facility for the next 6 months to a year and I'll be financially okay. If Joe Rogan had said that, I would have never discussed any of these videos, but he didn't. So let's get down to it. So TMZ made a thing. They're talking about Joe Rogan. My advice: don't take my advice. It's a stand-up routine he did, and he made the right look stupid. Sorry. So he was discussed this himself. Repeated uncensored use of the N-word. That's racist F. Even to me, I'm me, and I'm watching it saying, "Stop saying it." And he's like, 4 more minutes. Then he said he's totally unqualified to offer medical advice for COVID, anti-vax stuff. He made the point before, yes, he has, but more biting. He said, if you're taking vaccine advice from me, is that really my fault? What dumb SSIT were you about to do when my stupid idea sounded better? You know the dude who made people eat animal dicks on TV? How does he feel about medicine? If you want my advice, don't take my advice. And then he dropped a new Joe Rogan experience where he once again painted himself as a victim. He called the compilation via a political hit job, but adding he had no issue apologizing he regrets. All right, let's get to it. One thing I've learned in the aftermath of the whole Trump debacle, the whole Trump presidency, and just this new our approach of idiocy that we're dealing with in this country, is that there are some people who are looking for this tough. I call it the Great White Hope. That's what Trump was, Great White Hope. And he doesn't have to be 100%. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to be like a minister that's like walking the straight and narrow all the time. But they're looking for someone who puts forward this idea that white people are being victimized and white people are being suppressed and white people are somehow being kept down and kept out of what should be their country, and that there's a targeted thing against white people. Let's get into it. That's nonsense, obviously. We saw the same thing with what was the boy up there in Wisconsin that shot them people? Well, escapes my mind at this point, but even he was like he didn't really agree with Trump on a lot of things, and he didn't feel like he felt like Black lives did matter. He talked about it. He said Black lives do matter. I remember there was a Marine Corps guy that was upset about things that were going on in the military, and people were like, "Oh yeah, he's talking about the Marine Corps," and he was like, he didn't agree with Trump. Like he didn't. Here we go. The gentleman I was speaking about, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Scheller, he was a Marine. He basically spoke out against the Marine Corps and the way they treated men like basically like objects, not like individuals, not like people. And it was pro-Trump entities and raised over $2 million. And he said he'd rather sit in jail except support from Trump. He wanted to bring the whole system down. That's what he talked about. And he spoke out against Trump. He said Trump was responsible for dividing our country. President Trump was told by everybody to kiss your ring because you're following power. I refuse. I respect your foreign policy positions. I hate how you divided our country. I don't even want your help. You do not have the ability to pull U.S. together. You may even win the next election, but your generation's time is running out. Tell your son to stop tweeting about me. Your whole family knows nothing about U.S. or our sacrifices. I can never work with you. And he criticized Biden too. What I'm saying is, there is a segment of our population that's always looking for this great white hope, and whether it was that lieutenant colonel I just mentioned, or whether it was Kyle Rittenhouse, who he came out and said on Fox News, Black Lives do matter. There's always that they're searching for something. They're searching for some dude who speaks the truth and he's this edgy guy. It doesn't exist. That's the danger, and that's what I wish Joe Rogan knew or he understood, that when he speaks out about suspicion of the vaccine, suspicion of the government, which is totally fine, and he doesn't, and people will say to me, this is obvious, most people should know this, when he doesn't acknowledge that, when he doesn't acknowledge the reality of I'm an entertainer and all that stuff, he plays into that. He plays into this edgy, and maybe that's kind of part of the magic of Joe Rogan, that he's like, I bring on Jordan Peterson, I bring on people like, people that are kind of racist, but then I also bring on Kyle Kalinske, I bring on David Pakman, people like that who are on the left. I just, like I said, I have no beef with Joe Rogan. If Joe Rogan had come out in the beginning and made that point that, hey, I'm a rich guy, and if I get hurt, I can sit down. If he did that, I'd be fine with it. But he didn't. It's like with Trump with COVID, that if I got it and survive, you can too. Yeah, but they gave Trump all the experimental treatments that existed at that time. They don't even know what cured Trump. They just threw everything at the wall with him. Most people can't get that stuff. Same thing with Joe Rogan. Most people can't afford that stuff. Then or now. And that should be understood and recognized when you look at these cases, that these are not average Americans. They're not. And like I said, let's say Joe Rogan had a long haul case. He could sit down for a year, and he could afford to bring in with 100 million. He could Spotify deal, 100 million deal he got. He could afford to have a full time nurse. He could afford to have somebody drive him around. He could afford somebody to go and take care of his business and stuff while he's at home sick. He could afford to have doctors come to the house with that kind of money. Most folks can't do that. Same thing with Trump. Trump was going to that hospital. He could be president. They have stuff back there at Walter Reed or at that hospital he went to, just for the president to do presidential work back there. So I'm just making the point that I get it. Joe Rogan is an entertainer. He's there to make people laugh. I get it. He's an entertaining guy. But this COVID stuff is serious, and it should be understood that. And he kind of joked about it with his comments that I read. That it was like, if you believe me, you're dumb. Dude, there's people where I'm from that were drinking bleach after Trump said so. After Trump was talking about the disinfectant, there's people that actually went out and drank bleach. I'm not kidding. There are some really dumb, ignorant people out there. Don't underestimate. Do not overestimate people. Don't do it. You'll lose. You got some dumb people, and they just wanted to go back to having fun. They didn't care what it took. And so when you speak out about these things, you should understand that it's dangerous. You know, I hope that Joe Rogan keeps making money. I don't want him to be destroyed. I mean, I don't. And he talked about how it's a political hit job. Maybe it is, but when it comes to the COVID stuff, I just think that we don't need someone out here that's playing into conspiracy theories and lies. Cause I mean, he had Ben Shapiro come on the show, and Ben's like, there is no racism, and Joe's like, he explained to him what racism was. I don't think Joe Rogan is a racist. All in all, I mean, I don't. I don't think. I think that maybe he just didn't understand or care the significance of his impact on the discussion, uh, in regards to this pandemic. Thank you for listening.